Welcome to the stream.
Hello,
Welcome
everyone.
to the stream. It's Wednesday morning.
It
Hey,
is, isn't
Sarah.
it? Hello. How are you, Asa?
I'm 100%. I'm 100%.
I love to
Yeah,
hear that. I love to hear that. Is that just because you're so excited about today's story?
it's exactly why. No, just kidding.
No.
I'm not excited about
Mhm.
today's story. If you're on the stream and you don't know what we're talking about Story Club, Science Fiction Story Club. Sarah Ray Werner and I will introduce ourselves shortly. We're working our way through this anthology of short stories, edited by Anne and Jeff Vandermeer of Annihilation, reading one story a week as writers, talking about how these stories are making us better. But Sarah, the truth is, I like the story and I'm excited to talk about it. But
Yeah.
the 100%, I think, comes from the fact that it's been a really good writing week. So while we're
Oh.
letting folks come in, let's talk briefly about that. How's your writing coming?
Um, I it's been off and on lately, to be honest, and I'm not ever sure why until like far after the fact. And like I'll go back and think like, oh yeah, I'll make the connection like, yeah, I was, fighting off a cold and I didn't know it at the time. Or it also maybe is me making excuses, but excuses, reasons, what's the difference? So no, it's been a rough writing week for me, Sarah. However, I have caught up on all of my administrative tasks. So, that's the upside. Procrastination gives us a reason, or maybe procrastination gives us other things that we can be doing to, clear out our backlog of emails and tax stuff and all of that. So, I've gotten a lot of admin stuff done this week. That's how my writing is
Clearing the
going.
plate. Clearing the plate. That's what we say in my house. Clearing the plate.
I like that. Clearing the yes, yes. How about you? I want to know more. It's been a good week for you. I want to
It's
hear
been a good
more.
week. So I had a live stream yesterday and just kind of powered through. Hey, Augie,
Hey,
welcome.
Augie.
Augie, I want to hear more about your podcast, BT Dubs. I want to hear more about it. So yesterday we did a live stream and I wrote a full first draft of a story, which was really exceptional for me, is almost 4,000 words, like a full length story. And so I'm just going to try to keep rolling with that momentum. I want to do the same thing today. And it's just kind of one of those like, famously the 4 minute mile, no one thought they could break it. You know this anecdote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, share it with us because I might not be thinking of the right thing.
Okay, well, if you can run a 4 minute mile, that's really fast. And for a long time, they thought it wasn't possible for a person to run a mile in 4 minutes. And then
Oh.
somebody did it. And then within like a year, a dozen other people had done it. Yeah. So it just
Oh.
like took one person to kind of like show that it could be done. And if there's runners out there, the new version of this is a 2 hour marathon where it's
Oh,
like
wow.
they don't think it can be done. Anyway, that's how I feel. It's like, okay, hey, if I can write a story in a day, I can do it again. So I'm gonna try. Why not?
Wow.
So I'm gonna try.
Wow.
I'm gonna try again, and it's just gonna be like a generative week where I think I'm just gonna try to bang out first drafts. Thanks, Augie. I appreciate that. Missed the stream yesterday, but I'm glad I made it today. 4K is great. Congrats. Yeah, thanks, Augie.
It
Anyway,
is.
for anyone who doesn't know, Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
I do. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Ray Werner. I am a writer and podcast producer. Hey, Kashiki. Living here in the Midwestern United States. It is beautiful and rainy outside. It is fall here, so I've got coffee and a sweater, and I'm ready to get cozy. Yeah. Let's see. How about you, Asa?
I love that. I'm Asa. I write short stories. Former screenwriter. I wrote a series for Audible. It's called Six Sermons, starring Stephanie Hsu.
So cool.
And yeah, but now I'm writing short stories. And in my quest to write a perfect short story, which will take the better part of a lifetime, I'm reading a lot of short stories, and that's what we're doing today. Everyone is talking about the Conquest of Gola. So, Nashiki, did you read this one? Any chance?
Not to put
Augie,
you
did
on the
you read
spot,
this
but
one?
yeah.
Yeah, to put you on the spot. I mean, you can also lie.
Because we won't know. because
Uh,
you're not on this video and we are.
yeah. Essentially, this is an early piece of feminism. We have an alien nation, mostly women, who are attempted to be invaded. Some men show up from what seems to be Earth. They try to invade. They ward them off, but it is a little bit messy
Yeah.
in the
This was a
meanwhile.
weird one.
It was weird. It was so yeah. Let's just as we start here holistically. I don't really have time right now. College, oh boy. Okay, yeah. Well, it's not like you're reading any other books, probably.
I mean, no, yes.
Yeah, Sarah, what was
Honestly,
what was it like for you reading this story? What
this
was
was a
your
weird one.
yeah, tell
Yeah.
me.
Sorry I keep interrupting you. I wonder if we
No,
have
go
some
on.
lag or
It's
if I'm
okay.
just rude. Um, yeah, this was a weird one. So I in college, you know, props to you, Kashiki. When I was in college, I studied English literature, poetry, and gender studies, which I'm sure is very different now, but back in the 2000s, it looked at second and third wave feminism, and a lot of the literary critique was through that lens. And so when I saw that today's story was a feminist short story from 1931, I was excited to dive in, and it was simultaneously exactly what I thought it would be, and also very strange and confusing. So going through, so I don't know, sometimes if you're reading things through a feminist lens, and I should probably back up and say what makes this story feminist is that it kind of puts women in a position of power and kind of explores a new power dynamic between men and women. And especially given the context is the 1930s, there's going to be a big difference at that time. Women had just earned the right to vote in the United States, and there was just a lot of change going on. And so, yeah, I didn't quite know what to think, because you assume in a story like this, and this is me in a faulty assumption. I was like, oh, women are clearly going to be the good guys here. It's a feminist story. It's going to be a lot like Sultana's Dream, which we read several weeks ago, which was another feminist piece of science fiction that showed there were a lot of parallels between those two stories. It showed a feminist paradise where the men were locked up all day and the women ruled and everything was peaceful and wonderful. The leadership, the feminist leadership in this story is extremely flawed. And I am so curious, Asa, to hear your thoughts. I thought what we were going to see was, here's a shining example of, what the world could be if it was ruled by women. And it's actually really, really disturbing. And so this was written by a woman in the 30s. I am so curious to dive in today. I actually ended up being... My biggest question at the end of this was, I know what I think right now in, I had to look it up, the year 2025. What would audiences, male and or female and or however they identified at the time, what would they have thought in 1931 reading this? And so I'd like to try to figure out that as much as we can today with the context we have. So those were my initial thoughts. What about you?
Okay, wow, yeah, this is cool. I like my initial thoughts. This story didn't penetrate me in any kind of meaningful way. It felt like a thought experiment.
Yeah.
Articulating thoughts that were neither novel nor inspiring for me. This was my experience of this story as a reader. And so it was disappointing. And, we've run into this before. And I definitely want to talk about how it's constructed, the kind of structure of this is very clear and clean. And I do think it's darker than it perhaps suggests.
Yeah.
I like what you were saying. I appreciate this point of view that the female leadership of this society is flawed I think that our default is like, okay, this is a utopian sultana's dream. This is an enlightened, people talk about this today. If all the leaders of the world were women, what would the world be like? That is this world, and yet it is not good. So I like that you're kind of pushing up against my expectation here of this, because I think even having read it clearly, I still kind of give them the benefit of the doubt just by the kind of ideological position of this story. And so that's already interesting to me, that what you've said already is kind of challenging the way I sat with this story as a reader.
Yeah, challenging is a good word. It was intellectually challenging. And whether it stands as a good story is subjective, but I think that there is definitely, I love your use of the word challenging. I was challenged on every paragraph, challenged me in this story, whether that was my expectations, whether that was like what I know and what my experience has been, my hopes for the future. It was challenged to every turn.
So I know Augie and Kashiki here in the comments, and if you're in the comments, let us know if you read this story and what your thoughts are for sure. And we can kind of tailor our conversation to where y'all at with the story. But I know that Augie and Kashiki didn't get a chance to read it yet. A little more like kind of plot summary here. What happens is that this is The Conquest of Gola by Leslie F. Stone. I'll just read the first paragraph.
Yes.
"Hola, my daughters," sighed the matriarch. "It is true indeed. I am the only living one upon Gola who remembers the invasion from Dextal. I alone, of all my generation, survive to recall vividly the sights and scenes of that past era. And well it is that you come to me to hear, by free communication of mind to mind, face to face with each other." We've got this like Homeric opening.
Yes.
Where the speaker, who is a woman, she is an alien of this society, this planet called Gola. She is telling the tale of a great invasion that occurred from a planet called Dextala, presumably Earth. Dextala is a planet run by men. Gola, where the speaker is from, is run by women. And what proceeds is she tells the story of a day where these spaceships showed up and these men rolled out, and they were fools at every sense of the word. Where the men that came off these spaceships were lesser beings. They were deformed in the rendering of this speaker. Their organs just didn't work. It was crazy to them that the nose could both breathe and smell. They were stupid. They couldn't send thoughts from mind to mind like the women of this planet Gola could. These are barbarians, is the one word used to describe them. And effectively, they come in peace, but not really. And eventually they attack, and they are somewhat successful in their attacks, but then the women overpower them and obliterate them, and the men never come back. That's the long and short of what we're talking about today, for anyone who didn't get a chance to read it. And yeah, I want to say, okay, let me just try to meet you where you are at. And there were points where I found this leadership disappointing. For example, if they're so smart, they just had so little ability to conceive of the fact that an alien species would be so different from them. It was like, y'all, when I think of like a sophisticated species, they're going to have like taxonomies and biologies of all the planets and so on. And she was just like, these people don't make any sense. And that was dismissive to me in a way that undermined the narrator's credibility for me. I was just like, I'm with you. Men suck. Humans suck. Exploitation. They're coming to, I get it. But the way you're talking right now is dismissive in a way that I'm just like, well, you're not exactly the bee's knees. So anyway, that was one piece of it that echoes what you said.
I appreciate, and I appreciate that you started us off by reading us that first paragraph, because it really sets us up to understand that this is it's a very limited point of view. It's from one person. It is they're remembering an event that happened a long time ago, and they're remembering this event in the context of how it ended. And so we're not with the Golans. We're not with them. We're seeing a memory that has been tainted by what eventually happened. We're maybe not seeing their genuine first reaction to the Detaxilans, the Earthlings, when they land. And I thought that was really interesting because as I was going through, I was taking these notes because I also found them very dismissive. Ostensibly, the Golans have had relationships with other alien species from other worlds. They talk at one point about the people of Mars. And it's just from the second we're introduced to the essentially human men who land on Gola, it's just like they were ugly, they were gross, their language was stupid, and I hated them. And it's like, I think that I was also questioning how they knew that they were men and how they knew that there would be two genders on Earth or Detaxil. And I
Well, to
just
be
thought that
clear,
was
they
interesting.
do have men.
They
They
have
do have
men.
they
Okay.
have their own men.
Let's set this up. So it's a matriarchal society, and it's very much like we read in Sultana's Dream. If you haven't read that, it is a very sort of matriarchal, and then the men are gentle and uneducated and shut away. They're not allowed to leave the house. They're very much second-class citizens. The men are not valued, and in fact, there's a actually really gross interaction of the queen like patronizing one of her consorts. In we'll get to that in a second. But there's a very strong power dynamic. There's a very big separation between men and women on Gola. These humans come in, and immediately the Golans say, oh, they're men. And they are so physically different. I was curious at first, like, why would you think these are men? But then we find out later that the men introduce themselves as men. And they say, oh, you're women. Don't you have any men we can talk to? And like this like really offends the queen. And it's only in through that interaction that their genders are really established as being in opposition to each other. Like the men say, like, here, actually, I kind of want to read it because I thought it was okay. Oh man. Okay. They call them man things throughout. Okay, it'll just be 1 second because I really think it's important to read this part. Sorry, I made almost too many notes, I think. Okay. And sorry, you can, oh my gosh, excruciating, ugly, like it's just,
Yeah.
oh. Okay, I am sorry, I will find this.
No, I'm gonna start downloading based on what you just said. Like, I think that part of it, well, I'm so curious to talk more about the fact that this was a story in the past. That is
Yeah.
something that I want to hear more about. I hadn't really thought of that the way you just said it. And then another detail that you just brought up was when the queen is super offended, she just storms off. I mean, it just was wild to me that she was offended. Like, there's supposedly like this advance. That would be like being offended by like an ant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like a talking like squirrel or something. It's like it doesn't matter. This doesn't hurt your feelings. And that felt like the time, to your point about what would have been like to read this at the time. That felt like the time speaking through Leslie, and not true to the nature of this advanced species.
Yeah. Which it makes me curious, like, in science fiction is often used, and fantasy is used like this too, to create a sort of allegory or to have like different species of an alien race stand in for other, other things. It's an allegory for what we experience on Earth. And so I was like, okay, is this part of that? Is that why? Like, is this story purely driven by like socio-political motives? Is it supposed to be a fun and interesting sci-fi story? Like, just what are we supposed to take away from this? And I found the passage. if that's
Okay, yeah,
okay.
let's hear the passage. Let's hear the passage.
Okay, so the men land, the human men land, and they're like, hey, so we want you to join our federation. There's been federations in the past several stories we've read. Star Trek definitely was inspired by a lot of this. Um, so they say, hey, we really like your planet. There's a lot of good business prospects here. You have a great, there's going to be tourists. You're going to make millions in the first year of trade. And it's like, again, millions of what? How does this benefit the Golans? It's not. They just want to exploit them. And so then the men say, come now. Because at this point, they've been talking to, I think, Gebel, the queen. Is that her name? Gebel, yeah. Or Gebel, the queen, who is the narrator's mother. And the narrator, we later learn, is one of Gebel's daughters, who then later becomes the matriarch / queen herself. So these men are talking to Gebel, and they say, come now, allow us to discuss this with your ruler king, or whatever you call him. Women are all right in their place, but it takes the men to see the profit of a thing like this. You're a woman, aren't you? And the narrator says it was the last part of this that took my breath away, and you can imagine how it affected Gebel. And that's when she storms off. She's intensely angered. Gebel storms off, and she sends in like a lackey to talk to these men because she's so offended. And so this was the part where like the gender really came into play. Hey, Cody.
Hey, Cody.
Oh, can't stick around. We feel that. We feel that. The day job. We get it. So the men in this like announcement, this pronouncement, established like, we are men, you are women, you are lesser. And that's sort of, I think, the point. That is sort of the mindset that the narrator is taking throughout the entire story. Like, because when they land, I feel like this is just colored how she remembers them even appearing, approaching, landing, etc. And so I wonder if this hadn't taken place, if things hadn't gone so wrong, would she remember them as ugly barbarians who didn't function well and were stupid and,
Okay, right. So this is like a retroactive.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is one of the interesting things. You wanted to talk about the structure. I don't know if this is the time to do that, but this is definitely an interesting narrative tool that you can use for a biased narrator, a naive narrator. I don't think this narrator is naive necessarily, but definitely a narrator who is selectively and very purposefully explaining things to us in a certain way. Very biased narrator.
Yeah, so let just like clarity here.
Yeah.
She's talking to my daughters. Do we know anything about, is this just kind of like story time history lesson? Is that what's literally going on?
You know what? You bringing that up is so cool. Sorry, that was really weird to say, but like, okay, this intro, and Asa read the intro a few minutes ago for us, and the way that it's presented. First of all, it begins with Ola, which
I don't think it's Ola.
Oh, okay.
Is my sense. I think it's like the alien tongue.
The alien greeting.
Which incidentally also means hello in Spanish. But
okay.
I mean, maybe, but I that's not how I'm reading it.
Okay, good. Okay, so the matriarch is our narrator. She's recalling an instance from her earlier years when her mother was the queen. But what gets me about this is she says, I'm the only survivor who remembers this. So I'm going to pass this on to you because that's how we pass on knowledge in our society, through oral storytelling. And she thanks them. This is just weird. I'm going to read this part. And well, it is that you come to me to hear by free communication of mind to mind, face to face with each other, as though they're doing her a special favor, or it's just interesting that she says that about like, hey, thank you all for like, agreeing to come here and hear my tale. Like, it's just a very interesting thing for the narrator to say at the beginning of a story, to thank the people for being there and saying like, you came here freely. FYI.
It felt for me like in that like the meaning is less essential to the existence of this sentence as it like as ritual. Yeah. So like it made me think of like the Iliad and the Aeneid, and it's just like gather, gather, sing, O Muse, where it's just like these kind of like what's that word? Epitaphs, where it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
these like we're here together, mind to mind, face to face. Like the
Oh,
whole first few paragraphs are like that.
you
That's
know
how
what? You're
I
right. You're right.
experienced it, at least.
And that's interesting too, because that's my lack of experience with that kind of storytelling. So like I didn't know what to make of it because I wasn't familiar with it, but I think you're absolutely right. It's like it's settling into the ritual of the storytelling.
Yeah, in those bygone days, as now, Gola was
Yeah.
enwrapped by her cloud mist. Yeah, yeah, really, really like evoked that for me.
I appreciate that. That's really, really good.
So okay, so this has presumably happened a long time ago. These Golans live a long time. Is that the vibe we're getting? That they live
That's
for hundreds, thousands of years, maybe?
yep. Yep. Very
Okay.
long lived.
Okay, so this is this piece of oral history that's being passed down from the last living survivor of this attack to her children. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just
Oh.
hate to, I just feel so simple saying this, but this just feels like boring 100-year-old feminism.
Okay. Let's take this apart. Let's take this apart because if it was boring 100-year-old feminism, which you know, there's an ideology doesn't necessarily like make something good or pure. You know, it's like there's bad takes on feminism. There's bad takes on everything, right?
Right, right.
Right. And so and that's what's making me question, maybe we can figure out today like if the what the author was trying to say about feminism through this, or if because she's a woman, we're reading a feminist agenda into the story.
Okay, that's hot. Yeah, that's hot. That is indicting. You're
Yeah.
totally right. You're
Yeah.
100% right. I mean, it doesn't help that the introduction to the story does frame it that way, but I love that you're calling that out. Yeah. So, I mean, boy,
Did you read the intro before or after the story?
I read it after.
Did
For
that
my theme.
change how you thought about it at all? Because I read it first, and so I went in being like, "Oh, this is feminist literature." But like for you, did it feel like that?
Honestly, and I just like staying positive on YouTube
Okay.
because YouTube is full of venom,
And
but
has a long memory. Yes.
and has a long memory. But I'm just gonna say it.
Do it.
What the intro made me feel is that this story is included in the collection because of who wrote it and when they wrote it. Right? This
They
was
actually come out and say that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean it's where like I'm trying to find that piece. Taylor and
Hey,
Wright,
Tay.
hello. Watching along as I get ready for the day and loving this discussion. Taylor,
Well, we love that you're here.
it is a delight. Y'all, if you don't know, Taylor Ann Wright is on AuthorTube. She has a very exciting life traveling the United States of America in an RV, reading good books and writing good books. And there's talk of the three of us, Taylor, myself, and Sarah, doing a story club in the future. So
Very excited.
stay tuned for that. Okay, where's that piece in the
Yeah. So the
you want to read
intro.
me that? Yeah.
I absolutely want to read you this. So let's see. The feminism of the story, and this is in the very last paragraph. The feminism of the story is an early and explicit example in pulp science fiction. This story is particularly interesting because it is told from the point of view of the alien. It is also thus one of the earliest stories to provide a truly unique and non-humanoid view of intelligent alien life forms. So they're basically saying these are the historical reasons that we're including this story. It's feminist and it's like it double dips. And it shows us.
Right. Actually, that's a really great observation. And it does, and I guess in both ways, it is pioneering.
Yes.
And yeah, that is something we take for granted. We're going to talk about this on Friday, y'all, at the horror writing workshop where we're going to talk about space horror. Is that POV of aliens? I mean, we just take that for granted, right? Sarah and I were talking about the Predator franchise I mean, this is something that we just see in stories all the time, in alien POV, but it all came from somewhere, and it's not that old. The story is less than 100 years old, so that is kind of wild when you think about that. That
It
like we're
is.
really only getting an alien POV for the first time roughly 100 years ago. You know,
Yeah,
maybe
and
there's antecedents somewhere along the way, but according to Vandermeers here,
yeah, well, and then we also have, just real quick, we later have a lot of, the Martian Chronicles show the Martians, but they're very humanoid. Like they just look like people. And so these aliens are like, they don't have bones. They kind of look like long slugs I took away, and they can like retract their eyes and their mouth and their ears, and like it's extremely radically different from human anatomy. So
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So maybe that's part of too, like sympathizing the monster. And again, if you think to, those 1950s, especially like the B horror science fiction movies where people go to space, they land on the moon or a planet, and the BEM, the bug-eyed monster, comes out and tries to kill them. So this is the point of view of the bug-eyed monster, which, yeah, I can see that that would be totally new and radical in 1931.
and they're intelligent.
Yep.
It's not Predator in that there's a human intelligence here, right? We see, in fact, they're more intelligent in particularly human ways. You know, they talk about how even just to talk to these guys, they have to get out this like museum technology.
Yeah. And I appreciated that. I appreciated some of the smaller details. But I think overall, um, I want to talk, yeah, let's just, since we're kind of dancing around the edge of it, let's talk a little bit about point of view and memory, rose-colored memories, and how we perceive ourselves, in this case, ourselves being the Golans, and superiority and power dynamics and leadership. Because here, I'll set things out this way. The Golans, as they are just as ignorant and flawed as the human men who come to invade them. Um, they're judgy, like you said. Um, they have very little empathy, which I thought was interesting for a like female coded species.
Zero. I mean, they're straight
Yeah.
up impatient.
Yeah, they're annoyed. They're annoyed. And so part of me, from a feminist point of view, maybe it would be satisfying in the 1930s to like see this planet of women, the men land and the women are just like annoyed. They're like, ew, go away. Like maybe that would be fun and satisfying. Um, but at the same time, bad
Well,
choices are made.
I think, but bad choices, like people in power get to make bad choices,
Ooh, can we
right?
talk about
Yeah,
this?
let's talk
Yes.
about this. Let's
This is
talk about
juicy.
this. Yeah, if we're talking about a vision of a society where women have agency, right? What can men do in 1930? They can kill people through state power. They're doing it all the time. That is the ultimate embodiment
Mm.
of agency, is the ability to like kill people
And to hurt your own citizens.
with impunity, right? Like, and that's what they get to do. They get to blast these ships out of the sky, kill all these men, hundreds, thousands of them, tens of thousands, it says. And I don't know, right? Like, who gets to do bad stuff? The most powerful people. So maybe this
But
is, in that way, it's the aspiration.
maybe, and I love where you're going with that, because I want to add a little complication. The first casualties are millions of Golans. So the humans come, the men come in their cigar-shaped ships. I don't remember if this is pre or post Freud, but cigar-shaped ships. And the cigar is not just a cigar.
Right.
And they come and they land, and they offer an ultimatum. They say, hey, join our federation, and if you don't, we're gonna like destroy your city, the main city where the palace is located. And the queen is like, yeah, whatever, okay. And she actually leaves and goes and takes a nap. She literally goes and takes a nap. Her people are threatened. She doesn't care. She goes and takes a nap. Now, yes, she's underestimating these men and their two cigar-shaped ships. And uh, it, but like you hear that your city is threatened. You don't really know these people. You're just making assumptions about them. Like all Giebel has to go on are assumptions, and she just assumes that their threat is empty. She doesn't even care to take precautions. Like her daughter turns on the force field around the palace, but like I'm gonna read this real quick because this made me like really really upset. Let's see. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So they measure time in hours, O-U-S. 1 hour is 5 hours. So she says, just 2 hours later, the hovering ships above let loose their powers of destruction. This is Giebel's taking a nap. The queen is taking a nap. I can't just emphasize that enough. Heavy explosives that entirely demolished all of Tola, the city, and its millions of people. Only the palace royale of all that beauty was left standing. Awakened from her nap by the terrific detonation, Giebel came hurriedly to a window, and it's like, so millions of your own people, you thoughtlessly, like that blows my mind. Like, what kind of leadership is that? What is that? What is going on? Help me.
The privilege. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like
Yeah.
some tyrannical privilege to me.
Yeah. Just
You're in the
completely
bunker. Everyone else is dying.
underestimating. Well, and the queen didn't even know she was in a bunker. Her daughter did this in secret. Her daughter turned on the force field while Giebel was napping.
Right. Okay. I am getting excited about this other reading though, that it's like in every way that they are incompetent, impatient, angry, disaffected, rude,
Yeah.
violent, murderous. These are the traits of the hegemonic power on earth, the men, right? So essentially, like this utopia of women is not a better society. It's just where the women have all the characteristics that men have on earth, which is a pretty disappointing vision of utopia.
Yeah.
But if we're digging here for like the most interesting version of that, I'm definitely excited. I'm excited by
Ooh,
that.
got some more
Comments coming
comments.
in.
Hey,
Jimmy
Jimmy.
said, if everyone made good choices all the time, we'd not need stories. Stories
Mm,
are a big way we play things out without experiencing the results.
yeah. Oh, that's my gosh. Yeah. And that speaks to stories as part of the way we learn. And just as they're doing in this story, like we inherit knowledge from our ancestors through stories that are passed on, right? Like, so I think that that's a really good point.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Our speaker, our narrator, is trying to impart.
That's the
What's the
hard
wisdom,
question.
right? Like, okay, here's the facts, right? You know, Germany invaded Poland. X, Y, and Z happened. What's the wisdom? Then that's kind of this recounting. It's called the Conquest of Gola.
Hmm.
What's the wisdom? If what you're saying is true, Sarah, that we're trying to get across to the next generation a certain kind of wisdom to this history, what are you feeling here? I mean, what's the
Confusion.
wisdom?
Well, I mean, that's my question. And is the audience, well, we won't get into that yet, but because the narrator, who is now the matriarch, the narrator doesn't condemn what Giebel did. She doesn't condemn Giebel for taking a nap and thoughtlessly causing millions of her citizens to get exploded.
No,
There's a
yeah,
lot
she
of
doesn't.
good, yeah, there's a lot of good
Oh,
comments
hey,
coming
Lauren
in.
Hunter's welcome. I was just like reflagging the privilege. Yeah, still privileged.
Yeah.
Doesn't even get any kind of retroactive condemnation for letting millions of people die. Hey, Laura, they also seem to pass their power down through
Hmm.
hereditary succession rather than democratically. Right. This is a
Yeah.
tyranny of queens.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually, Laura, and that's a good point too, because that's how our current narrator becomes queen. She's one of many daughters of Giebel. And because she turns the force field on in the palace when the Detaxilans fire their weapons and the palace is saved, that's how she secures her place as the next matriarch. Like that causes Giebel to say, "You're the next queen," because you had the foresight to like protect the palace.
Right.
But do we not care about the millions? Like,
I mean, but again, I mean, yeah, like, but no, we don't. I mean, like men don't, right? I mean, again, it's like it's just like if we reframe this, it's like what's going on in Gola is so good because they have what men have. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
well,
that's actually
okay.
not that interesting. But
Is
like,
this just what happens when you have power and you don't have empathy to go along with that power?
there's definitely no empathy. In addition to all the things you said before, I mean, the destruction, it's not even that they won the war. Giebel and I followed, and she gave the order for the complete annihilation of the two powerless ships. You know, so we have like wholesale murder of
Yeah.
defenseless people.
Right. Oh, that's right. Because in this story, so the Golans do have, they don't necessarily have big, like, pew pew cannon guns. They have essentially tractor beams that can draw in ships and hold them and even paralyze the people inside the ships. There's one actually kind of terrifying point where these men in the cigar shaped ship, the first time they come, because then they come a second time with more, this first time there's just these two ships, and they show us Asa right near that passage that you referenced. The men are inside, all they can do is move their eyes. They're terrified and they're
Oh, I love
helpless,
that.
and Giebel just destroys them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to, for anyone who didn't read it, can you expand that image
Yeah.
slightly? Not
Oh
even
my gosh.
yeah. I mean,
Here you go.
essentially, okay, you got it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is Giebel and her daughter both walk into one of the men's spaceships. So we were both astounded, this is the narrator, by what we saw of the great array of machinery within. But a glance told Giebel all she wanted to know of their principles. She interested herself only in the men standing rigidly in whatever position our beam had caught them. Only the eyes of the creatures expressed their fright. Poor things. Unable to move so much as a hair while we moved among them, untouched by the power of the beam because of the strength of our own minds. They could have fought against it if they knew how, but their simple minds were too weak for the exercise, and et cetera, et cetera. Giebel and I followed, and she gave the order for the complete annihilation of the two
Yeah.
powerless ships.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That is so vivid. Like that was a really vivid image. These frozen men, just totally frozen, except for their eyes, and how horrifying that would be to be able to see your doom coming, but not be able to
Yeah,
to
like that's
to, to move
horrifying.
at all. Yeah.
And one more thing, real quick, before she orders the destruction, in that little part that I skipped over, um, there's 1,000 of these men. There's 1,000 of them on this ship. Giebel takes 30. She takes those she judged to be their finest specimens, those with much hair on their faces and having more girth than the others. So she picks like her favorites, and she saves 30 of them, who will later become slaves and or get dissected for study, and then blows them up.
Yeah, no,
So,
yeah, right. Yeah, it's yeah, just lab rats. Yeah, exactly right. Right. It's like, yeah, it's wild. Augie.
yes. Okay. Well, and there's a lot going on.
Do you want to read Augie's comments here?
I do. I do. Well, and I want to skip up two comments to what
Oh,
Jimmy
yeah.
said too,
Yeah,
because
sorry, Jimmy.
I
Here we go.
no, this is
Sorry,
a
this
great
was in the
point.
mix. Yeah, Jimmy
Yeah.
says, but stories are also how we fantasize about how our bad choices aren't really bad. Hi, just about every piece of utopian fiction.
Yeah. And then maybe
Maybe
that's
that's
yeah.
maybe that's the wisdom, Jimmy says. People in power can be selfish and hollow and awful, no matter their gender and or species. Well, this is a story club, y'all, because I think
Hmm.
Augie,
Yeah.
you would beg to differ.
Yeah. So
Sarah, you
Augie
want
says
to you want to read this one?
yeah. Augie says, I find it completely unbelievable that women who led society would mirror our current leadership in any way. So to hear about it here is shocking almost. And then a nap while your world is being destroyed, a woman could never. That's what I was thinking too, Augie. And that's why I'm wondering, to Jimmy's point above, so there's maybe two different types of wisdom being dispersed. There's the wisdom from the author to the readers, and then there's the wisdom from the matriarch to her daughters who are gathered around her. And I think two different morals are being shared. The moral of the story that the matriarch tells to her daughters is don't even give them a chance. Like by the end of the story, by the second time they're invaded, she says, we now destroy any ships that come in before they even have a chance to land. That's the moral of the story. And it's like,
Right.
okay, what? But then maybe the other side of things is the human side of things. And that is, again, what Jimmy was alluding to is, I mean, we say a woman would never do this because women are tend to be a little bit more matronly and empathetic and loving. But is this just the nature of power? Is this, I don't think so, but I wonder if that is what is being explored here. So,
Yeah, I mean, yes. And at a literal level, these are aliens. You know,
yeah.
they while the story is identifying them as women, while the narrator is identifying herself as a woman, talking to people, talking to others who she identifies as daughters. The piece is obviously deeply gendered, but it is another species. So I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and is there any indictment here of anyone? I don't know. I want to
Or
keep
if
looking for
everyone,
that.
I mean, yeah, it's okay. All right. Well, let's get concrete. Let's get practical. Sarah, here's another comment. Well, more comments. Thanks, everybody. Jimmy says, "Oh, their simple minds were too weak and choosing
Mhm.
prisoners based on their perceived genetic superiority." Yeah, we don't get echoes of this over and over and over, especially in the 30s.
Yikes.
Taylor, I think enough power, fame, and money has the possibility of tainting anyone. I'd like to think it wouldn't go to this extreme with women ruling.
Mhm.
Agree, says Augie. But that's what makes this conversation so compelling. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Power, absolute power corrupts absolutely,
And is
regardless.
that even, like if we want to dig a level even deeper, is this even corruption for the Golans? Like we're assuming that the Golans have the same like moral compass as like a human as we would, but like maybe we're just seeing a society where power doesn't corrupt them. Like they're just naturally kind of mean and non-empathetic. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go with that reading, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. Well, okay. What I would love to, if you're ready, Sarah, I would love to hear
Oh,
what you can take from this as a writer. So if it's your first time onto Story Club, Sarah and I always try to engage with these stories, both as readers and writers, and try to get specific around like, okay, what about this story is useful for me as a writer? Can I take anything? Is any of this inspiring, etc.? So, Sarah, what do you think? Anything you can take away here?
you know, here's my thought. We've read a lot of stories in Story Club. This is like number 26 or 27 or something like that. We've read a lot of stories so far. And usually when I'm confused about something, it's you and I kind of solve it by the end of the discussion. There's been a lot of great discussions we've had where one or both of us has come in confused and we both finally get it at the end. I don't think I finally get it at the end. And what I'm taking away from this, I almost don't even want to say this because it's not something I agree with, but like what I'm taking away from this is like be a little less ambiguous maybe. But that's bad, right? Like this story is layers within layers and audiences within audiences. We have the audience in the story, we have us as the audience. We've got a biased narrator. There's like so many factors, right? So like this is the kind of experiment where there's not just like we're not doing A/B testing. This is like ABCDEFG testing, and it's like okay, we've got a biased narrator, we've got an audience from the 1930s, we've got potentially like satire question mark.
Mm.
It like and there's just like I can't parse out what we're supposed to take away from this story. And no matter what level you read it at. And again, maybe it's just I'm not a scholar of this time. I have not read a lot of 1930s science fiction. But just given what I do know and what I have read, you know what? Okay. As I'm bumbling through this and trying to like figure out what I would take away from this story other than hey, be more direct with your message, which is not something I want you to do. Like, I don't want to take that lesson away as a writer.
Right.
I don't
Well,
want to
yeah,
be, yeah, right?
but yeah, there's a difference between avoiding unclear and wanting to be obvious, I feel.
That's true. That's true. Because I would never tell you to like, okay, now you need to go into a story with a clear idea of what you want to say and like what the moral is going to be. It's like, no, that's the exciting part of story is like exploring these things. So here's the final sentence here. After a second invasion, and what happens is a second invasion comes and is almost successful because the slaves, those 30 men that were kept back, they form an alliance with the subdued men of Gola and take down the tractor beams so that 1,000 ships can come in. However, it does not succeed and they all get blown up. The men of Gola get put back in their place, and the narrator ends up saying, yes, more came from their planet to discover what had happened to their ships and men, but we of Gola no longer hesitated, and they no sooner appeared beneath the mists that they too were annihilated, until at last Detexel gave up the thought of conquering our cloud-laden world. Perhaps in the future they'll attempt it again, but we are always in readiness for them now, and our men, well, they are still the same ineffectual weaklings, my daughters. That's how it ends.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's hear what everyone else says. Aki says it feels unsatisfying. Taylor Ann Wright says, I didn't get a chance to read before, but I definitely will after this. Very interested to see how I interpret it. Yes.
Will you let us know, like, when you read it, will you let us know in the comments what your thoughts are? Like, come back and let us know, or over in our Discord.
In the Discord, yeah.
Yes, let us know. I'm dying to know.
We'll share the Discord link momentarily for anyone who's not already on the Discord. We'll share that.
And then, sorry, I interrupted.
No, in Lore Huntress, there's so many descriptions in it without really ultimately getting to an actual point.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean,
it almost feels like a draft.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a draft.
Okay, it feels like a draft. Or like I'm missing the point. Like there is something here and I am not smart enough to get it. I think that it ending with they are the same ineffectual weaklings, my daughters, when the last thing she says is about how powerless the Golan men are and how ineffectual they are. That made me wonder if this was maybe a little bit, is this like a little satirical? Like they underestimated their men and it led them to this horrible situation, but we're going to continue to underestimate our men.
I mean, I like that reading. Yeah. I mean, it's one reading of the story is like this led to the moral fall of an entire species. Cause it does say they're not like warlike, right? This is like their shields or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. That's how they destroy is they overload the shields. Like they're not a warring nation. Like they destroy these ships by overloading their shields. Okay. There's a lot of, there's good stuff still coming in.
Okay. Jimmy BJR says, what if this story is basically a female author putting females into the so powerful, their cocky position that men held in sci-fi stories at the time? I think that's a possible reading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it is. And it's okay. Sorry, we'll keep going with comments.
If you swap gender roles in that respect, it's pretty similar to how women are viewed today. Oh, that's interesting.
It is. And okay, Tay, that is, can I read one more small piece?
Read, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the first invasion, the men, their brains, the human men's brains have been analyzed and the council has gathered. Gebel is there. Her daughter is there. They're like, who built their ships for them? Men are not smart enough to build ships. And Gebel says, I don't question it that their mothers built the ships for them as playthings, even as we give toys to our little ones. And then they're just like completely dismissing the fact that these men could have even built their ships. It's not a possibility. And then one of the men The only named male character in the whole story, Suiki, the fifth consort of Gebel, is a pretty little male, rather young in years. No one had noticed his coming into the chamber, but now everyone showed surprise at his words. And his words are, maybe those males do not have mothers, but instead they build the ships themselves. Maybe they are the stronger sex on their world. Impossible, ejaculated Yabo. Gebel laughed at the little chap's expression. Oh, Suiki is a profound thinker, she observed, still laughing, and she drew him to her, gently hugging him. So, Taylor, to your point, that's exactly how I saw this. This is how women would have been treated in the 1930s. Like, oh, don't worry your pretty little head. Let the men take care of this. But it was just gross. So yeah, that was just another thing where I don't feel like there was a lesson.
Yeah. Well, I still feel like I can take some stuff from this story.
Okay, tell me what your thoughts are.
Just
Maybe then
just from a writing point of view. And it's funny because I just feel like I've been caught by stories that we've been reading several times on this particular front, is that reading this story makes me realize that I think both as a reader and as a writer, I have so much faith in the characters I write.
Ooh.
Like I make them fundamentally good, or like, you know, they're rounded, but like they're still like basically you can take them seriously.
Yeah.
Their version of reality is at least like 75% true. And this is the second story where the narrator is just like, it could be all wrong. We only hear her side of the story. We had this with Sultana's dream. We didn't hear from the men. And so it's just the limited view here is so limited that I didn't even perceive it as a reader either, that we're really just getting one particular point of view. And so this is just, I don't know, continuing my kind of like education around what's possible with point of view and how narrow you can make it and how dubious you can make a particular point of view. Yeah. And then the other thing that like is kind of a cool reminder is like how you can, just the idea that it's a story being told in the future and kind of like oral history. Like this is exciting to me formally as a way, like that would be a fun prompt. Like write a piece of oral history from the last surviving member of a historical event.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a cool setup.
Yeah.
Comments. Maybe that's why it feels so wrong, because women don't inherently act that way.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no lesson. Maybe it's just the story the writer wanted to tell for her own reasons. Imagine that.
Yeah. Like maybe we don't need to read like all of this into it. Maybe, and that's the thing is, I don't know much about the author. I don't know much about her life. I don't know what she went through. I was not alive in 1931. There's probably a lot going on here that is based on the author's own experience that we don't have access to in this story. That's a great point, Jimmy.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, all. It's been a delight.
This has been a delight.
Tomorrow, we are discussing a story that you probably can find much more easily than. Do you have your copy sitting in front of you, Sarah?
I do. I have it right here. Yeah. We've been going through The Dark Descent, edited by David G. Hartwell, which has been a really good, so far, very comprehensive look at the history of horror short fiction. And tomorrow, I'm kind of excited. We're reading a Ray Bradbury story I haven't read before. So it is called The Crowd by Ray Bradbury. And should I go on with our tradition and read the first sentence?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. Mr. Spallner put his hands over his face. There was the feeling of movement in space, the beautifully tortured scream, the impact and tumbling of the car with wall through wall, over and down like a toy, and him hurled out of it. Then silence. You know exactly what's happening.
Yes. I do love how we're getting into like science fiction.
I do too. Well, science fiction and then Ray Bradbury in a horror compilation. Like I would expect that in the Big Book of Science Fiction, but I love the crossover.
Great point. It's in the horror compilation.
I love it. And there's been so much crossover between these two genres that we've seen. There's been horror in our sci-fi and sci-fi in our horror, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. just going through the last comments here.
Yeah.
Wait, hi Jimmy, keep seeing your comments, but I didn't see you in chat. I was over in Ace's chat, so I came over here to say hi. Is not everyone in the same chat?
Some people are on my YouTube and some people are on your
Oh,
YouTube.
so they don't see each other's comments,
and they don't see each other's comments. So
Oh,
that's why it's good
so
that you share them here.
Okay, all right.
That's why it's
all
good
right.
you're sharing them here.
Very astute observations. Taylor, thank you so much. This was great. Thank you, Taylor. I will definitely be there tomorrow. Augie, hello. Community folks, it's happening. Ooh, I'll read tonight, so I'm prepared. Hey. Okay.
Oh, and then Jimmy says Bradbury wrote a few killer horror stories. So this is
Lord
really
Hunter
gonna
says
just
no, jumping back and forth. Right. Okay. So gosh.
Yeah.
Well, what's happening here is that we're streaming these simultaneously on both channels to, get the broadcast out, as it were. But this is good intel. This is good intel. Okay.
Very, very cool.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
All right, folks. Live the dream. Have a great day.
Yeah,
And we'll
we're
see you.
excited.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we're excited to see you tomorrow and again, we've moved things up to 11 a.m. Eastern. That is 10 p.m. Central. That is, I said p.m. Sorry, a.m. Morning. We're here in the morning. So do join us tomorrow and Friday. Friday, we are doing a space horror writing workshop, which I am super stoked about. It's one of my favorite genres. And again, that is 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday. So tomorrow and Friday
is going to be sick, y'all. Sarah sent me a picture of like a dozen DVDs that either said Predator or Alien on them. And she told me not to judge, so maybe she won't appreciate this call out. But I think it's amazing that you have so many copies of so many Alien Predator movies.
Well, Tim and I bought the whole series of both Alien and Predator because I wanted to watch them all in order. The only one we didn't get is Alien Resurrection, and we'll talk about why maybe at some point, but it's my least favorite.
Okay.
But all right, friends, thank you for being here. This is a delight. We're happy to see you, and we will see you again, hopefully tomorrow and or Friday.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye for now.